New York Police Department's stop and frisk law has become one of the most controversial laws in all of the country that blatantly violates the citizens of New York's Fourth Amendment rights. Right from the start of this law being implemented, District Judge strikes down NYPD's stop and frisk as unconstitutional, and Bloomberg, the criminal of New York, vowed to appeal the decision, as New York's stop and frisk policy was declared unconstitutional by U.S. District Court judge who ruled that the practice of stopping, questioning, and searching pedestrians violated key provisions of the U.S. Constitution. Even the New York Civil Liberties Union have come out to say that stop and frisk practices raise serious concerns over racial profiling, illegal stops, and privacy rights, and even stated that nearly 9 out of the 10 stopped and frisked New Yorkers have been completely innocent according to the NYPD's own reports. New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio appointed Bill Bratton as the NYPD commissioner to defend this unconstitutional stop and frisk law. A small group of lawmakers who honor their oath try to push a bill through that would make the police department abide by the U.S. Constitution. However, cops are irate over the proposed bill that would force them to adhere to the Fourth Amendment. But the New York Police Department's Union President Patrick Lynch was the first one to defend this unconstitutional law, assuming that everyone is a criminal.
The idea that police would have to ask permission to search certain suspects infuriates the police union.
This is one more time that the city council looks like they're and is trying to protect criminals rather than support New York City police officers.
Last year, as part of
NYPD Union President Patrick Lynch, this is just one of many incidents that he has defended unconstitutional, unlawful laws that violate the citizen of New York. And remember, he was the one that said, if you resist, you die. Patrick Lynch, you talk about criminals, well, you, sir, are the real criminal in New York, not the citizens. And speaking of corrupt individuals within the New York Police Department's officials, NYPD chief gives more freedom to New York cops to break the rules. Top cop orders internal affairs to stop attending traffic court to investigate officers' errors, among other changes. And New York City Police Commissioner William Bratton has announced he will be giving commanders in the field far more authority to decide when to punish officers' infractions, and will also do away with many checks and balances put in place to deter cops' bad behavior. Even the NPR News reported back in 2013 that at stop and frisk trial, cops described quota-driven NYPD. And then today, we have brave officers, retired Captain Graham Weatherspoon, Officer Derek Waller, and amongst many other people standing up, fighting against the stop and frisk illegal program. A brave group of New York Police Department officers, known as NYPD Blue 12, held a press conference on their lawsuit against the NYPD's quota system. And we have, once again, retired Captain Graham Weatherspoon and Officer Derek Waller leading the charge to fight against the NYPD's illegal system. Our New York correspondent reporter, Kat April Waters, was there at the press conference with this coverage.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Angelo Pinto, and I'm a member of Justice League NYC. Justice League NYC is a task force that was started almost 3 years ago to address juvenile justice and has begun to focus extensively on policing throughout New York City, particularly after the death of Eric Garner at the hands of Officer Daniel Pantaleo. About a week ago, or a month ago I should say, I had the opportunity of being in this church and hearing from an officer who's standing behind me today, Officer Witherspoon, speak about his experience as an officer, and not as a transit officer, being discriminated by other officers. The first time I heard a candid portrayal of what officers experience, and it made me think differently about officers of color in this city. About a week ago, I had the opportunity, I got a call from a friend of mine named Jim St. Germain, and he told me there's a gentleman I want you to meet. And that gentleman was Edwin Raymond. And me and Edwin began to talk, and within a very short period of time, I realized that Edwin's story is a story that can transform the relationship not only between policing and the community in New York City, but between police officers who care and are taking a different stance on policing, and activists, advocates, and organizers who have been saying for some time that reform needs to happen in New York City immediately. The last thing I will say is that oftentimes one of the things we talk about to a great extent is this idea of mass incarceration, that there's large amounts of people being pulled into the criminal justice system every day. The reality is you cannot have mass incarceration unless you have mass criminalization. And the way you have mass criminalization is by policies and practices that are discriminatory. We talk about broken windows, we talk about stop and frisk, we talk about quotas. But the other thing you need in order for those policies to have legs on the street is officers who are willing to abide by them. You need officers who are willing to abide by discriminatory policies. And what we've seen, unfortunately, time and time again, and you all have heard the story, and that officers are willing to do that. And one of the things we often hear from the other side is that there's a few bad apples. There's just a few bad apples doing this in the community. And one of the things I've always thought is, it appears that we only have a few good apples. And today, we have the opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with some of the great officers who are letting their voices be heard. They're not sitting in silence talking about the discrimination that they're experiencing and the illegal quotas, but they're putting themselves and their career on the line by standing out and talking about what's going on. And what I would like to do is have Officer Edmund Raymond now come to the podium and speak to you about his experience and his pending roles.
Good morning, everyone. Officer Edmund Raymond, as most of you know. I've been a cop for 8 years, and in the last 8 years, I've been fortunate to witness this quota destroy lives. On a national scale, one of the things that people advocate for are more minority officers. And the reason for this is, being from the community, you're expected to have a natural compassion for the community. But this is completely undermined because of the inherently racist policies known as quota. When it comes to mass incarceration in New York City, the quota is at the root of it. And myself and the other officers all took an oath to serve and protect and to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of New York. You know, this is part of us serving and protecting the people. Unfortunately, we're protecting the people from the department itself. Ultimately, we ask that people support this fight. This is not for us at all. This is for you. Each and every one of us could conform and adhere to this policy, and I'd be a sergeant right now if I went along with this policy. These other officers would not be in the positions that they're in. We, in a sense, sacrificed our own careers so the community can be treated better. That's all I have.
Next, I'd like to bring to the podium Ms. Tamika Mallory, Justice League member and community activist and advocate for the community.
Good morning, and thank you all so much for coming, and particularly to those who are standing with us today. We appreciate all of you for being here. The officers who have come forward, particularly to stand with Justice League in this moment, is really an incredible opportunity for us to look at what we have been dealing with as community activists and what officers who may not be as brave as these gentlemen to come forward have been dealing with as well. It is an opportunity for us to have a new moment and a refreshing moment in this city. What is unfortunate is that as of late, we've heard from our commissioner that the officers who also work for him and their claims are being called bullshit. That in itself is more of what we know creates an environment where racist policies can be in effect in communities of color. Because the commissioner has decided that these officers who work with him are not a part of the people who he intends to protect and defend. That to us is unacceptable. Not only should there be accountability for the officers, but there must be accountability for the commissioner of the NYPD, Commissioner Bratton. And we hope that he will understand that even if one officer says that there are discriminatory practices taking place within the department, that one officer should be listened to and his claims should be investigated in the appropriate manner to ensure that those people who are supposed to be protected and served are being just that. That is not what we have seen happening in communities of color across this city. We know that we are not crazy. The activists, the advocates, the families, the victims, those who we have worked with and supported for years are not crazy. And so the officers who have come forward are pretty much providing us with the information that we need as to why there is over-policing and discriminatory practices taking place in our communities. And if the commissioner wants to heal community police relations, it will not come from training people with the same training that has gotten us in the position that we're in. It will come from us taking an honest look at what is happening in the department, listening to the few good apples, as my brother Angelo has stated, and coming together to say there is a problem, and until we call it what it is, which is that our communities are being discriminated against. Until we say that, state that, and be real about it, we will never have positive community police relations. I want to bring forward two other officers that we have heard from in the past. When looking at the stop and frisk case, which many of us have been very involved in, and we're happy with the results that because of the judge's work in that case and her ruling, it was found to be an unconstitutional policing practice and therefore has quote-unquote been ended, but we know that broken windows is an extension of stop and frisk, so there's work to be done there. But we've heard from these officers in that case, and I think it's important for the media that is here today to understand that this is not an easy thing for these officers to step forward. And so when you're writing the stories and you write them in ways that criminalizes the police officers who are speaking on behalf of the community, you really don't do justice to them and you put their lives in danger. So we hope that you will be careful in what it is that you write and say about them after this press conference today. But let me bring two of the officers class action lawsuit, but also to support Officer Edwin Raymond in his efforts. Officer Adil Polanco, am I correct? Adil? And also Officer Derek Law.
Good morning, my name is Officer Polanco. I started my fight back in 2008 with Stop and Frisk. I was one of the few officers who testified on the Schindler. When we started speaking about Stop and Frisk, we got the same reaction from Commissioner Kelly that we got from Commissioner Bratton now. This is bullshit. But that's the same bullshit that got Commissioner Kelly where he's at, not paying attention to us when we were not trying to fight, we were not trying to get any benefit out of it. We were trying to bring changes. We were trying to say we grew up in the community, what we are doing to our own people is not right. And I'm not talking about criminals, because I'm not talking about a black person or Hispanic person that committed criminals should not go to jail because they are black and Hispanic. That's not the point. But what we were doing with Stop and Frisk and the quota, that yes, we still have it up to today, the quota brings problem to the most vulnerable, because when you put pressure on cops to come up with numbers, they're not going to Midtown Manhattan and choking somebody in the middle of the street. They're not going to Midtown Manhattan and doing it. It's the black, it's the Hispanic, it's the LGBT community. We go for the most vulnerable. I thank everybody for being here. Like I said, when we started back in 2008, there was not that many involvement. Changes came through. As of the thing, why there's not as many officers stepping forward is not easy. When Frank Serpico came out, a good friend of mine, a good supporter of ours, there was only one Frank Serpico. There was 16,000 cops in the New York City Police Department. And they were all crooked, they were all taking money. And yes, you have one officer who was trying to tell the department, and he was not listened to by his own department. So to Commissioner Bratton, I don't know who's whispering to his ears, maybe the same chief that got promoted to Stop and Frisk. They use the Stop and Frisk to be where they are. To Mayor de Blasio, if your commissioner don't want to listen to your cops, maybe you should. We are more than willing to talk to you. You benefit more than anybody out of the Stop and Frisk scandal. And that's how he got elected, opposing the quota that today we're still facing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Detective Waller, 22 years, July 12th, 22 years, police officer. Derek. with their father. And hopefully through all of this, some of the younger officers and upcoming officers through the years won't have to put up with some of the harassments and threats. So, wish us luck.
Next, we'd like to bring to the podium some other officers who've been on the front line for a very long time. Officer Graham Witherspoon, representing Black Law Enforcement Alliance, and Officer Vernon Well, representing 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement.
Good morning. When a patient is sick, for the patient to receive medical treatment, they must first acknowledge that they are sick. They can receive a prescription, but if they fail to take that prescription to the pharmacy and get the prescription filled, they cannot get the medication. And subsequently, their illness will get worse, and the patient can even die. I've often said there are 52 states in the United States. The 51st state, the state of denial, and the 52nd state, the state of fear. Many of our people are living in a state of fear in this city and across the nation because of the color of their skin, or because of their economic status. This issue is nothing new. Commissioner Bratton, if quotas do not exist, then you need to terminate those supervisors that are calling for quotas to be met in their commands. It is just that simple. You suspended a captain this week for failing to go to the hospital when 2 officers were shot a week and a half ago, and thank God they are well. You suspended him, you took his badge, you took his gun, and you're going to demote him. In the same sense, you promoted Kenneth Boss, who murdered 2 black people in 15 months in New York City, who was protected by D.A. Charles Hines. And I'm talking of Patrick Bailey, who was shot in the back in the 7.5, and Amadou Diallo, who was murdered in the doorway of his home. And you promoted Kenneth Boss to the rank of sergeant. But Edwin Raymond, who scored number 8 on the promotional exam, is not qualified to be a sergeant, because the supervisor says that his activity is not good enough. But there are some things that I want the public to know about policing and what is taught in police science. The job of the uniformed officer is to deter crime. I'm going to repeat that. To deter the crime. Not to catch the criminal, but to deter the criminal. We haven't gotten to a point where people are dumb enough to go and rob a bank while the police officer is standing in the back. We haven't gotten to that point. So for a commanding officer to tell uniformed personnel to go out and bring in numbers, when the commissioner and the mayor have been saying that crime is at a low, a 40-year low. Well, if crime is at a 40-year low, you cannot expect the interactions of the police officers to be at an all-time high.
That's right.
Somebody is lying, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. Commissioner, it's time for you to make a move. This man should have been promoted long time ago. He's being denied the income that he is due. He's being denied the right to study for the lieutenant's exam at this very moment. You are further embellishing a case, which is not going to be good for the city of New York. The New York City Police Department has cost us, the citizens of this city, more than $1 billion in lawsuits over the last 12 years. That is money that could have gone to feed the homeless, to provide housing for the homeless. So, something has to be done. Mr. Bratton, the ball's in your court.
It is. These unconstitutional criminals, New York's Mayor Bill de Blasio, former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, Police Commissioner Bill Bratton, and Police Union President Patrick Lynch, who put a bad name on the police officers in New York City. And we encourage all police officers, do not enforce this law. And we at Truth Radio strongly encourage the citizens of New York to take back your rights and resist these tyrannical Fourth Amendment violation anti-constitutional laws. Remember, resistance is victory. Defending liberty in the spirit of 1776. It's Dan Bedandi on TruthRadioShow.com.